Our last member of this panel is New Hampshire Senate Commerce Committee Chairman Andy Sanborn. Andy's been a New Hampshire State Senator since 2008. Prior to that, he was in the commercial lending industry for 15 years. He's now involved in automotive research and development, real estate, financial consulting, and he owns a restaurant in Concord. Chairman Sanborn is on the board for the New Hampshire Lodging and Restaurant Association, and it was his small business experience that led to his involvement in politics. He works to solve some of the state's most pressing economic challenges, and I'll turn it over to him.
Thank you very much, everyone. Good morning. Thanks so much for having me. Again, go back. Everyone knows what a huge fan that I am. And unfortunately to Brant and Ron, I'm going to talk a little bit about the other side of the story. In 2010, we won 300 seats out of 400 in the New Hampshire legislature. We had 19 seats out of 24 in the New Hampshire Senate. So for the second time in the history of our state, we have a husband-wife team, state senator, house rep. And for all you gentlemen out there, you fully understand how every morning my house works. I wake up, I kiss my wife, she tells me exactly how to vote. Thank God she's a conservative. Fred talked a little bit about the rise and the fall of the nations. So I want to talk a little bit about the rise and the fall of the Republican Party in our brand. Because the downside to the 2012 election, we lost 120 seats in our House. We lost 6 seats in our Senate. We have a governor that's so liberal she makes Barack Obama look like Milton Friedman. And at the end of the day, if it wasn't for disparaging comments about my personal friends, I'm known as the last Mohegan in New Hampshire politics because I have become the highest ranking member that's been elected. Now we do have U.S. Senator Kelly Ayotte, but we lost Congress, we lost the governor, we lost 120 seats, we lost 6. We, quite frankly, we took a shellacking. But it's not all that bad. So I want to talk real quickly about a conversation I had with the New Hampshire GOP and the New Hampshire Republican Senate Party, and tell you a little bit. I'll truncate down a 1-hour conversation into about 10 minutes about what I see as the future of our party and what we need to work on. Obviously, as a result of our election, our party's fragmented. Up here in the north, in the great Northeast, we're surrounded by nothing but liberals. And our state tends to swing back and forth, and as I mentioned before, we're a little bit of a deficit today. And I think part of that is some of our message has become a bit fragmented. We've lost a little bit of our strategy, and it's tough trying to keep our group together. So I want to talk a little bit about what I see the need for our party at this point to make transformational change in how we're interacting with the people of our state and our nation. It's a pretty simple thing, and I think we've lost, at least in our sense, a little bit of our value. I tell people every single day, I'm just here to make sure we're being good with your money. As a Republican Party, we talk every day about all of our values, and we make the decision to become elected really for 2 things, and we've missed one of them. Virtually everything we talk about has to do with policy. Some people like education, some people like transportation, some people like social issues. But as a party, we've forgotten the front half to me. I'm a business owner, 22 years in commercial investment banking. We have to start talking about process. I'm a big Milton Friedman fan, but I'm also a huge fan of this guy named Deming. Those of you taking notes, D-E-M-I-N-G. If you can't measure it, you can't manage it. We've lost control of our government at the federal level and the state level because we spend very little time trying to prove to the people that through spending their money wisely, we're making it smaller and more efficient, and we're helping them process it. So 5 years ago, when I became a state senator, I never wanted to be in politics, I'm honest. God bless every single one of you guys. I hate you. I was just such an angry business owner, I couldn't stand it anymore. We're a state. Remember our state motto is live free or die. We embrace personal freedom, personal responsibility. Heck, Ron Paul got 25% of the vote in our state. We are a state that believes in your personal rights to life, freedom, and the pursuit of whatever the heck you want to pursue. But as a business owner, my state had become too big, too broad, too bold. It was invading every single aspect of my life, and I had just had it. By the way, I'm Irish. I'm willing to fight with anybody. So So let me talk a little bit about what I've spent the past 5 years trying to do. Make our government smaller, make it more effective, and make it responsible to the people, irrespective of whatever policy decision we need to make. Because I believe that's part of what we have to do to rebrand our party and win elections again. So as I always say to every Republican group I talk to, because of course when I talk to the Democrat groups, no one shows up with a pencil. But every single Republican group I talk to, there's business owners, and ladies and gentlemen, there will be a math test. But it should be simple, and you should be able to do it on basically the top of your head. 5 years ago, I took 18 months to truly look with a critical eye as a banker, and we've got another banker in the room, I understand, about how government is operating in between the relationship between government and business. I convinced the governor to give me about $3 million to start what we call the Business One Stop. Now, there are people here from Michigan and people here from Georgia who are beginning to do some of the same things. So from perspective, we're a very little state, 1.3 million people. My first day as a state senator, I called up our IRS, called the Division of Revenue Administration. They hate me. And said, how many businesses do we have operating in our state? They said, Andy, we got 76,000. So I called over to the Secretary of State's office, the place that we all register our businesses and pay a $100 tax every year for every single business, and said, how many businesses do we have in our state? They said, well, Andy, we have 120,000 businesses in our state. And then I called unemployment security that we're all paying into, and by the way, my unemployment security tax is up 300%, and asked them how many businesses we have operating in our state, and they said, Andy, we've got 146,000. Now, does that make anyone in this room nervous? When my government doesn't even know who we have as our customers and who we're talking to every day. We have 68 state agencies. 11 of our state agencies interact solely with the business community. So I said, I'm going to do a little test, because again, remember Demi. Can't measure it, can't manage it. How do I prove to the people of our state we're spending their money wisely? So I went on a 9-month tour to pick every single form our business community uses to interact with our government. Those 11 agencies have about 10,000 forms. Start writing this down, we're going to be doing some math. We make the assumption that every business interacts about 3 times a month with our government. So I called the federal people, UPS and FedEx, who by the way I don't see here supporting you guys, David, so we're going to have to put a call out to those guys. So I called them up and I brought them in on a national basis. I need to tell you, how are we processing our information? Now in New Hampshire, quite frankly, virtually every interaction we have, you have to pull off a PDF form. You have to self-populate every single line. Name of your company, your address, your social, everything. Put it up in an envelope and mail it into our government. Both Federal Express and UPS said, we think you're spending about $50 every single transaction between business and government. $50. So I'm known as a pretty conservative guy, so I make that number $30. So here's our math test. We have 150,000 businesses operating in our state, interacting with our government 3 times a month. That's 450,000 forms. We're doing the math for you, by the way. Don't need to. We can stop it there. 450,000 forms a month, 5.4 million forms a year in the smallest definable demographic we have in our state. 5.4 million forms a year, $30 a piece. We're spending $162 million just opening the mail. It's $324 million of budget. Now, when I turn and look at eBay, when I can sit home in those cute little pajamas I own with the shoes with the feet in them because they're the most comfortable ones I can find, and I can buy a car in Arizona, pay for it, and ship it to my house for 3 cents of a penny per transaction. Or my wife can go on over to Amazon and buy that cute little green spatula with the rainbow that she likes and have it delivered the same day. And yet in the state of New Hampshire today, if you want to start a company, you need to drive to our capital, physically give them the paper, and ask them if it's okay if you have the name you want to have for your company. $320 million, ladies and gentlemen, is 3.5% of our total state budget on one agency. And our total budget is $10 billion. So for 3 years, I've been working on collecting every single form, digitizing it, and working through the approval process. So for me, it isn't just enough on the processing side to try and turn to the business community and let them enter what we call the business one stop. Whereas a business owner, you'll be able to enter into government, have everything self-populated, and transact your business. But as a true conservative, the most important part of this project we've been working on is the enter button. Because we've worked and we've digitized our way, and every governor doesn't know this, our governor, we've talked about that. We've digitized the approval processes. So what happens every time you hit enter? Now, Tom's not in the room. He's a big data guy like I am, so we love all this stuff. Every time you can get the business community to interact with their government electronically, you hit enter, it gives you a date stamp. Most important part of the process. Because I believe we will be the first state, assuming we can get the corner office back, because now that we've got this governor, this whole project's a little bit train wreck. You press enter, it gives you a mechanical date stamp. You know, we talk all the time about the efficiencies or the inefficiencies of how government operates, but the reality is none of us really know, do we? We have no idea how truly efficient state employees are. But in the state of New Hampshire, every time you press enter, every single desk that form goes on to is going to have a date stamp. So we'll be the first state in America to sit there and say, well, that guy over there, I mean, he's doing 100 forms a day, but that guy over there is doing 3. Mechanical performance matrix is going to change how our government operates. And if we can do this with just the business community with 150,000 business, think what we can do when we interact with health and human services or education. Ladies and gentlemen, I believe we can truly reform how our government operates. I believe as a party that when we talk about messaging and understanding the fragmentation that we have, our opportunity today is to prove to the people we're going to use their money wisely and back it up. Because it doesn't make a difference which party you come from. When you say that, everyone shakes their head up and down. And when you get a true conservative in there who has that opportunity to say, I'm going to prove you how well we're going to do it, we're going to be able to make it smaller and more efficient. And I'll close up because I know we're late for time, so I'm trying to be short with this. This is a conversation I obviously had, like I said, with our state party and the New Hampshire Republican Party to try and find a way for us to rebuild, re-energize, and reconnect with everybody. Because it takes 50% plus 1 to win every single race. But even at the federal level, think about it. Let's pick an easy one. Let's pick the SBA. Only deals with the business community. It's a form-intensive agency. We take every single form, we put it online, so the purely electronic interaction, tenths of a penny, mechanical performance matrices. I do believe it's time for a truly transformational change of the Republican Party. I think we can go places as a political party that the Democrats don't even understand, much less embrace, because they just don't understand it. So for me, ladies and gentlemen, again, I understand our conversations about whether or not we're conservative enough or not conservative enough. Again, known as a complete conservative. But if we want to win, we need to figure out a way to make it smaller and better. And up in New Hampshire, we're really working on that. Only thing I'll leave you with today, as my example of where our governor is today. 2010, our budget was $11.7 billion. With our 300 members of the House and the leadership of my wife, our 19 members in the Senate, we cut $800 million of a $10 billion budget. $800 million, 8%, hard cash cut. Pretty proud of that. So now we're looking to spend about, our budget right now is about $10.1 billion. Our new governor just introduced a new budget that's $11.7 billion. 11.7. We got to work it out for you. We'd love to have you help. Come visit us. And I'll always start talking about free states. Remember, we're number 4. And our motto is live free or die. So come on up with no sales tax and no income tax, and we'd love to have you. With that, I close remarks. Any questions?
Senator,
Sir.
what do you attribute the losses to in 2012?
I think we attribute to, I mentioned, as you can tell, I'm a math guy, right? We have about 770,000 voters in our state of 1.3 million people. And knowing that we're such a swing state, by the way, you all, thank you so very much for letting us stay first in the nation primary. I know you all support that, because if you don't, I'm going to come over there and beat the life out of you. So, because we're such a swing state, because we're, traditionally a sea of red and a very blue section of the country, the Obama campaign put some real resources into it. And if you guys have not talked about how they won, it wasn't about ideology, it wasn't about messaging. They just had a better ground game than we did. They same-day registered 99,800 and some odd people, same-day registrations. And they just beat us on the ground game. Their technology's better, their ground game is just better than ours, and that's something we gotta work on. Again, it's about math. So for us, not even methodology, purely a ground game and a wave. We also had a governor candidate that is a wonderful guy, personal friend. It's the 4th time he's run for office and the 4th time he's lost. He has a little bit of a problem with that whole win part of the equation. Any other questions? Sir?
Just out of curiosity, how is your motor vehicle division for licensing and auto renewal and different things like that handled? Is that any kind of electronic, or is it similar to the?
Well, it's interesting you say that, because again, one of my businesses, in addition to a restaurant, is in a car dealership. And I brought forward legislation last year, common theme you're going to hear from me, to modernize how we register cars, and actually brought through a process. Because right now in New Hampshire, you can't register a car at the dealership when you buy it. You have to go to the state office and stand in line. So I created legislation that a number of your states I know do have. I know Ron does in Tennessee, it's a good program, that allows instantaneous electronic registration at the time you buy your car. So we passed that legislation 3 years ago. Now, because part of our registration process, you have to go to the town clerk. We have 237 town clerks who all register something differently, and there's this little bit of this whole union thing we talk about. They've been a little bit hesitant, but we cleared all those hurdles. We put the RFP out last week. So I'm hoping the next 18 months, we'll actually be fully electronic at the dealership. Does that answer your question?
It does. It just strikes me that that would be one of the things that you could touch most people with about modernizing and making an effort that people would buy into, say, like license registrations, license renewal, all that kind of thing, because NVA is certainly one of those things that is always a pet peeve of many.
Yeah, I know. I have to give our motor vehicle people a fair amount of credit. It used to be truly horrible. We have 360. New Hampshire, live free or die, right? We have 360 different licensing boards in our state, more than California. So there's definitely some angst out there on it, and the guys at DMV, guys and gals at DMV have stepped up, and they're really helping. Ours, despite the long lines, tends to work pretty well.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Ladies and gentlemen, again, thank you so much for your time.